Hey guys, my name is Ozzy from OzTalksHW, and I teach you guys how to save money when building computers. Although this is true, consoles have been a big part of my childhood. And so I got super excited when I saw the new Series S was only $300. I couldn't help but think though, how will a similarly priced PC fare? There's a lot to unpack, so Micro Center and I built two different gaming computers to answer that question. Can these $300 machines beat the Xbox Series S? After the Series S launch trailer leaked, Microsoft used it as an opportunity to announce the Series S and publicly release the Series S trailer. Being the budget-oriented person I am, that naturally caught my eye, and I have to admit, it's pretty good. The S offers an 8-core Zen 2 processor, a 4 teraflop RDNA 2 video card, and a 512GB NVMe SSD, all in a small enclosure for about $300 US. If we were to translate that to computer specifications, the main components would look something like this. The CPU is an underclocked Ryzen 7 3700X, which starts at $300. Perfect. The entire budget of a computer fits in the CPU of an Xbox Series S. Exactly what we want. The 512GB NVMe SSD would start around $60 on a good day. Now, the SSD won't directly affect gaming performance, but it will decrease loading times and installation times. The hardest part to crack is the GPU, and that's because we don't have any RDNA 2 GPUs from AMD yet. But we do have RDNA 1 GPUs, the 5000 series, and we do know the general compute performance of the Series S and the Series X. Using that information, we can come up with some decent estimates. The RX 5700 XT is double the performance of the 5300 and also has about double the compute power. 9.8 teraflops versus the 5300's 4.6. Now, flops don't translate perfectly to gaming performance, and they also don't always scale linearly, but if we use this relationship, we can figure out the Series S and the X's computational power. The X should sit somewhere between a 2080 Super and a 2080 Ti. This means the S is a third of that performance, which is about an RX 580 or 5500 XT. Now, these cards start around $170 brand new, and once you take into account the motherboard, the case, and the power supply, and the RAM, things aren't looking so good for the PC gaming community. But what if I told you that's on purpose? Keep that in mind for now, we'll talk about that later. Let's try and build a $300 computer using the new market and the used market. Building a brand new gaming computer with only $300 is a lot harder than you think. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's not too bad. This is a lot harder than I thought. Still, with the help of Micro Center, I was able to whip something up. So I'm using Micro Center because they are sponsoring this build and this video, but we have an ASRock H310 motherboard, and then we have some RAM. I am going to go dual channel, but this is just the cheapest 8 gigs of RAM I could find. The power supply, I just got the cheapest power supply that I didn't think would blow up, and that's the PowerSpec 430 watt version. The SSD, this is the tough part. This game won't even fit Warzone. I'm not blaming the SSD for that. I'm more so blaming Warzone because that game has no business being 200 gigs big. Like, Warzone, you're not that good looking. And I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this one, but we have the Pentium Gold G5400. And the only reason I'm going for a dual core hyper-threaded CPU in 2020, almost 2021, is because of the open box new price. The video card at $130, the RX 570, a great entry-level card. If we take everything here and put it in a PC part picker list and then change the prices accordingly and add the case, we're sitting at like $330 something. Let's order the parts and let's see what happens. Sweet. Now, the new computer came out to just around $334. This is about 12% over budget, but it was necessary to build a viable new computer using a major retailer. And some of these prices were because of open box deals. It has a Pentium G5400, an RX 570, 8 gigs of DDR4 memory, a 120 gig SSD, a basic DIY PC case, and a 450 watt power supply. The question you might have is, well, what happens if we try and use the used market? So I know that building a used computer isn't the most fair comparison to the Xbox Series S, but it's something that I cover a lot on the channel, and it's a viable option for many. I got an RX 580, Ryzen 3 3200G, Aorus B450 motherboard, and 16 gigs of DDR4 memory for $210 on Letgo about a month and a half ago. I threw in a used 650 watt EarthWatts power supply that I got for $30 a few months ago, a brand new case for around $40, and a 240 gig SSD for $25. This entire computer sits just under $300, and honestly, it's one of the best used computers I've built. It's the best case scenario you're going to have for this price point. Now, Microsoft touts that their Series S is going to be able to play games at 1440p with 120 FPS. I doubt that. I don't think it's incapable, but it's definitely going to be game dependent, and for all the other titles, it won't be possible without some kind of DLSS alternative that AMD has. Now, our goal with benchmarking these machines is to try and hit the 1440p 120 FPS goal, but if that's not possible, then at least 60 FPS on low settings. To emulate the Xbox Series S, we have the Ryzen 7 3700X, which will be locked at 3.6 GHz, a Radeon RX 5500 XT 8 gig variant, and 16 gigs of DDR4 memory. Place your bets now, but I'm excited to see the results. Let's go see what happens. Okay, so you guys saw the results yourself. Currently, it's not possible for you to build a similarly priced computer and beat the Series S console. But that's also not something to be upset about. It's actually something to be excited about, and here's why. Consoles must last a long time. You cannot upgrade the main hardware in a console, and games get more demanding each and every year. This means that Sony and Microsoft, Nintendo, you're not included in this, they have to make sure they have the highest next generation hardware in order to keep their machines as relevant as possible. This means that AMD or whatever manufacturer it is, they have to prioritize Sony and Microsoft for the next generation of CPUs and GPUs. But as time goes on, the next generation hardware becomes more affordable and more accessible to PC gamers. A Series S GPU might cost around $170 right now, but a year from now, the same caliber GPU could only cost $100. While these specific machines may not battle the Xbox Series S, that doesn't mean 2021's or 2022's computers won't be able to do it. Location is also something to consider. Here in the States, the Series S is $300 US, which is great value, but that's not the case everywhere else around the world. And to get a better understanding of that, I decided to call up a friend.
Hi everyone, I am Alex, better known online as the LowSpecGamer. You might have heard of me before due to some of my fascination for entry-level hardware and my desire to experiment with low graphics in a way that can be a bit extreme. As you can imagine, I too am fascinated by the Series S. Microsoft really has pulled out a card that either has the strong potential for really changing things or showing us a glimpse of what the future holds. But as I tend to mention in my videos, the United States is in a bit of a privileged position in terms of pricing. So do OC's observations still hold worldwide? Interestingly enough, local Xbox accounts publish their local pricing for many territories. A lot of these are suggested prices so far, and they are likely to go up for a lot of these territories when it actually comes out, but there's still some interesting stuff here. Look up at places like South America or India. This is some serious price increase. Thing is, it actually seems to scale quite nicely with the overall cost of tech in these countries, so when I try to recreate OC's PC in these territories, the Xbox continues to be a great deal. A lot of it is being affected by many elements. The used market in a lot of these countries is abysmal. Their very popular RPUs could use a refresh, and AMD GPUs are often expensive or hard to find, so you have to rely more strongly on entry-level Nvidia GPUs like the GTX 1650, which wasn't exactly the budget king many of us expected. It will be interesting to see how the new PC generation is going to compare in low budgets in the following years. Anyway, if you want the full analysis, there will be a link to my video down below, or maybe you want to see me try to get Flight Simulator working on an integrated GPU or something. Back to you, OC.
So again, as you guys can see, there are a lot of different factors that play in here to having a great valued console. If you're in the States, then the Xbox Series S will give you better raw gaming value than building any modern computer could for the same price, unless you get some like insane deals. Something else that I didn't consider is the price of online play and also the new Xbox Game Pass. There really isn't a good way for me to factor that into cost, so I completely disregarded both of those, and also the price hike in games on consoles now, and I just focus on the raw price of the components. So at the risk of starting a console versus PC war in the comments, a similarly priced gaming computer won't beat the Xbox Series S right now, but I think that will change in the future. So if you guys like this video, then make sure you leave a like. If you loved it, share and subscribe to myself and also Alex at LowSpecGamer. His content is phenomenal. If you like my stuff, you would like his stuff way more. Follow me on all my socials at OzTalksHW on literally everything, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.